Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 213, recording on Monday, November 18th, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And on this week's episode, Sean and Andrew will be discussing the Game Award nominees. Unfortunately, I'm done with the Game Awards. I was referred to my comment, or a comment that quoted what I said on last week's show, which was, if Shadow of the Erdtree gets nominated for Game of the Year, I'm done with the Game Awards. So unfortunately, I won't be able to join you guys on the discussion. But
yes, it's too bad.
You know what? Maybe I'll break. This wasn't necessarily a solemn vow, but I won't watch the Game Awards, but I'll,
You know what you could do? You could comment on our comments. Then you're not really commenting on the Game Awards. You're just commenting on what we say.
Yeah, I'm done with them personally, but you guys aren't. So I'm the host. I have to feed you this stuff, unfortunately. And
you're forced to. You're forced.
We're going to go through all the nominees. We'll see how much new commentary there is. Our predictions were pretty accurate last week, aside from one major snub. But I think we'll also get into Rise of the Golden Idol, the new game we've all tried, and maybe some other stuff. All right. You guys doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You sure? The Game Awards didn't send shockwaves, ruin your day?
They rattled me. They rattled me, but I've recovered.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay. I'm dealing okay.
Well, let's get into it. I will tell you guys about the award nominees. Number 1, Game of the Year. Game of the Year: Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth: Wukong, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And I think I almost had every one except for, well, I had Helldivers 2, obviously, instead of Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. And I think I had Zelda Echoes of Wisdom just because I wanted to jinx it.
Well, I've got the predictions here. Do you want me to recap what everybody picked?
Let's do it.
Okay, so my predictions for Game of the Year were Astrobot, Balatro, Final Fantasy Rebirth, Helldivers 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Silent Hill 2. So
That's
3
good.
out of 6 for me. Okay.
Is that last place?
We'll see. Huck, his picks were Animal Well, Astrobot, Balatro, Helldivers 2, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and Metaphor ReFantazio. 3 out of 6.
I forgot I didn't put Rebirth in there. What a mistake.
And Frank picked Animal Well, Astrobot, Final Fantasy Rebirth, Helldivers 2, Echoes of Wisdom, Metaphor ReFantazio. 3 out of 6.
Oh,
Yeah, I was really flirting with Balatro as well. It was like my number 7. So
I thought you put Wukong on there when in my memory, but
no,
I guess
I don't think it deserves it. But that, out of these Game of the Year nominees, I think that means Black Myth. Once I'm done with Dragon Age, I'm going to finally get into Black Myth, and then after that, probably Metaphor, and then spend all of December playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But quite a bit still left to play.
Yeah, so Black Myth, I think, was kind of a blind spot, even though Frank had played a bit of it. It was kind of a blind spot for all of us. We did touch on it briefly as like a possibility, but none of us mentioned it. And I saw an article today. I believe it's the lowest Metacritic rating ever for a Game of the Year nominee at the Game Awards, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at it here. It's an 81, so that's not crazy. But I think 85 was the lowest previously.
Yeah, I feel like probably should have been Animal Well, and I don't think they wanted to give 2 indie games Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah.
But I still can't believe Helldivers 2 didn't get nominated. That's weird.
Yeah, so when they were going through the nominations, I watched the video, and as soon as it came up for Best Ongoing Game in a year that it just came out, I was like, okay, it's probably not getting nominated for like Game of the Year. Wouldn't
that even be more of a reason to give it a Game of the Year if in the same year released? It's The
You
best
could, but
ongoing?
it just seemed to me like they're relegating it to like, okay, this is just a kind of like ongoing content multiplayer game. It's not, you know, so
Well,
in the running
have
for
to go to
games.
the press release. Do you have that up there, Sean?
About the DLC and all that.
Oh, DLC, yeah. But what's eligible for a game of the year?
Yeah, I don't have it up. So yeah, I guess the other thing we got to talk about obviously is that Shadow of the Erd Tree being in there. And they did put out a press release on Friday saying, by the way, DLC is eligible.
Well,
Which
what a press release. By the way, the press release is the Game Awards recognizes that many games are ongoing services that evolve over time with new content, features, and improvements. Games released in previous years are eligible in all award categories, so long as the jury feels their inclusion is merited due to new content, improvements, or service updates. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price value should be taken into consideration.
Yeah. So, I mean, when they put that statement out on Friday, I saw some articles saying, oh, well, this means Shadow of the Erd Tree is definitely not getting nominated because how did people know that they were eligible? And I'm thinking, well, obviously the people on the panel would know what's eligible and what's not. And I thought, okay, it's definitely getting nominated now.
I'm with you, Sean. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, they're preparing for
The backlash.
nominations. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I still think it's very strange. I can understand remakes and remasters. You cannot play Shadow of the Erd Tree. Like, you can't just fire up that game and play it. If someone watched the Game Awards and wanted to play the game of the year, if it won, let's say, you couldn't even do that. You couldn't evaluate it. You need to invest, who knows, 100 hours of time to get to the point in another game and get to the point where you could actually even attempt this. Like, it's so crazy to me.
Yeah. So it kind of made me think like, okay, have there been games that were basically built on the same engine, but they're standalone games? And I guess the only thing I could think of was like Majora's Mask, maybe something like that. There's got to be some other good examples, but like
The infamous First Light and the Blood one for Infamous 2, those released as standalone games.
I mean, you can kind of think of any game that's like a what was it? The Counter-Strike spin-off games, Days of Defeat, and what was the other one?
Team
And then
Fortress?
even like Dota. Wasn't Dota like spun off from something? And
3, I believe.
like, yeah, and like all the games that are built off Valve engines are kind of like basically like Half-Life mods to some degree. So I mean, I guess it depends on what your like definition is, but I guess those games weren't necessarily Game of the Year nominations though.
But it's more than just, it's got to be more than just building on the same engine. Like the way
Yeah.
Sean, because lots of games use the same engine. It's got to be more of a framework.
Well, I guess would you consider like Spider-Man 2 because it uses like almost the same map.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That feels like a sequel to me. It's a separate
yeah.
game.
Like
But I mean, I think that's equivalent.
maybe
right?
Miles Morales would be a little closer to
Miles
that.
Morales.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's the thing. Like I don't know. I'm not like super annoyed about Shadow of the Erd Tree being there. Like I haven't played it. I can't really comment on the quality, but it sounds like it's a big game. So yeah, it's not a standalone game, but it's seems like a kind of a standalone experience, if you will.
You should be more upset because you just said, I haven't played it, so I can't really comment. Well, you can't comment because you also can't play it. You are literally ineligible to play the game of the year potentially.
Yeah, that seems messed up, to be honest.
I definitely had a feeling it might happen. I wasn't sure if DLC was eligible. So I guess now we know. I don't know what else will come up in future years, but I mean, I also thought maybe that might be an indication that Silent Hill 2 might be in there. Because Resident Evil 4 got nominated last year, I think, didn't it?
I don't think so. I think Resident Evil 2 remake might have been nominated one year.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not 100% sure. Those are all different too. I don't, it's not the DLC or that it's a standalone expansion. It's not even a standalone expansion. It's just literally the idea that it's inaccessible to probably 90% of the public. And I understand that a lot of work went into it. I don't have a problem with that. But based on this criteria, how is stuff like Fortnite and other games as a service not eligible for Game of the Year every single year? And how do you distinguish between different things? Like it just seems messed up, and it feels like they have a hard on for From Software, and this is all about just making sure they can nominate them because gamers love them.
Yeah,
it does. I was just gonna say, it does seem like the equivalent would be like if like The Last of Us Left Behind was like not, you couldn't play it unless you like 100%ed Last of Us Part 1 or something like that. Like it seems ridiculous because it's, you should be able to play this thing, especially if, I don't think Left Behind was nominated for Game of the Year, but I think the fact that you would make a huge chunk of content locked behind and then people would think it was good enough for Game of the Year is very counterintuitive to me. I would not think that would be considered eligible, like just out of a gut feeling. But I agree. Definitely hard on.
If it won, you would just be re-rewarding Elden Ring. It already won Game of the Year. It's such a strange kind of choice. And why not just 2 years from now add another expansion to Elden Ring and win Game of the Year again? If that's all it takes.
Might as well.
You already know you're the best game.
That is why I don't think it will win. I feel like Astrobot is definitely the favorite at this point, but hey, who knows? I did want to touch on one thing. I know some people in the Discord and stuff were kind of commenting on, like, this discussion comes up every time, but it's like, who's actually voting on this, right? And like, are there more international people voting on it? Is that why stuff like Wukong's in there? And they do have on their the Game Awards website the current voting jury, which is like 100 different media outlets, and you can see what countries they're from, and like it's like 25% American. There's a good chunk of UK stuff, and then surprisingly, there was only like a couple from Japan and a couple from China. I thought there would be maybe a little more, but there's a bunch from South America. You can go see the whole breakdown, but these are the people that are voting on it, and it's the nominees do not have reader or like whatever they call it, the player's choice vote or whatever. That's only on the winner for the actual. That's 10% of the votes for the winner of the actual show that gets broadcast. But for the nominees, it's all from these outlets.
Yeah, other than the Elden Ring thing, I would say all 6 picks basically make sense. There's some stuff on the fringe that could have been subbed out, and again, obviously Helldivers too, but it feels generally okay.
Yeah, like we did talk about all these games at some point in our discussion, so I don't think there's any crazy surprises here.
I still think Prince of Persia is getting a lot of getting snubbed, but quite a lot of publications and the public at large. So whatever, they get it wrong. What else is new from award shows?
Yep.
And it does like there is a sentiment with Jeff Keighley in the Game Awards that I think he's more about appeasing gamers to some degree and being popular because they need to sell stuff, and it's all about selling ads for other games. And if they exclude Elden Ring, people might not watch it, or they would watch it because it's there. And I feel like it's more, just there to appease certain fan bases and get them to watch than it is necessarily about picking the best game of the year.
Or did Erdtree not sell as well as From Software wanted? So they gave Keighley a little extra payola to get into the Game of the Year discussion to boost those sales up.
Yeah, that's
no saying
something there.
I'll go on record to say I don't think there's any payola involved, but I definitely that sometimes that thought can creep in there.
Oh, there's definitely maybe not direct payola, but they've
advertising payola
and things. at the
There's
game.
advertising, and the one thing, like, so this panel of outlets, there's like, if you go up a layer, I don't know if this is still true, but this was on the Wikipedia page for the Game Awards. I guess there's like a committee or something that Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, they all sit on, and they can name outlets that they think should be in the voting jury, which initially I read that and I was like, oh, are we going to see like dual shockers and like some of these very specific Sony or Nintendo or Xbox sites, but I didn't really see anything like that in the list of
I don't think they should be. Like, you should have to at least try games from everything to have representation there. If you just play one console or platform, you should definitely be excluded from voting on the game.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Okay, next is best game direction, which I guess anything else for game of the year? I think we pretty much covered it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question about game direction before you name off the games that are in here, because I find it kind of interesting. Sean, in your research, did you happen to find what their definition of game direction is? Because it's interesting, the list.
There was something on the site last year. I don't remember exactly what it was.
I think it's about consistent vision and design.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find it, but you can read off the list.
The nominees are exactly the same as Game of the Year, which the Game Direction Award, I'm sure we've discussed this in the past, makes no sense. Like, when you're picking the best game of the year, what separates the game from its direction? It's even debatable for movies. But you could see a case where certain performances and elements of a movie elevate it beyond direction. But I mean, what part of a game of the year isn't based on its direction at some point?
Yeah, I mean, that's where something like maybe Shadow of the Erdtree could not be there because it's just building on an existing game. But
yeah, that's a good point. It's the direction's already been established. It's just adding content for the same thing. Now, obviously, it needs leaders to direct this new DLC, but I think that's a good point, Sean. So, I mean,
even like a game like Balatro, which is like, essentially a twist on poker, or even a game like Astrobot, which is a twist on Mario, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a twist on Final Fantasy VII Remake and original Final Fantasy VII, and Metaphor, which is a twist on Persona. None of these games have like incredible direction from what I'm seeing. Like, the mechanics are all quite established. It's not like there was any great game design revolution in any of these games. It's not like the art direction, which is separate, was revolutionary in any of these games. So I find this category kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're going to have
at least with the current nominees.
Yeah, like, if you're going to have the category, then yeah, I think you should go more outside the box on that.
Like, but I think Animal Well should be in here, for instance.
Yeah, I think so too. Even Neva, I think it would apply more to this award, where there's like a unique or singular vision attached to the game. And I think for whatever reason, this direction tends to lean more on story. So I think,
what about Helldivers 2?
I think that would deserve it. I think
we should be the advisory camera
is going to win this award. And if not, I think Astrobot. But I would say Black Myth had some interesting design and story elements, at least in the first few hours of the game, that like felt different. It didn't feel like every other, third person action game I've played. There are a lot of similar things, but there was a few unique ideas where I could at least understand that nomination. But
just looking down the list too, like Plucky Squire, that could be a good choice in here.
I agree.
This is a horrible list. I can't believe this is the list for this category.
And it's just so uninspired to be the exact copy of the Game of the Year. Which maybe their argument is, well, you just said why they're the same thing. Well, let's not have two awards then.
But like, so the actual write-up on the site says awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So that innovation thing, to me, feels like they're not really taking that to heart. But I don't know. I guess it's hard
And
to
I
argue.
truly,
It's just why have another category at
Yeah.
that point?
it's
Unless you
almost
just
like a
consider,
misprint,
yeah, maybe
but
could be.
they put the same things down because, like, I see no innovation. Like, not
Should we double check on the actual Game Award website to make sure? Because are you looking at the Polygon site?
No,
yeah,
no, this is on the Game Award website, what I just read.
no, we're
Okay.
just making sure
Oh
it's not
no,
a
the
misprint.
games are the games are the same though
Oh, that the
on the
nominees are
Game
right?
Award
Yeah,
website.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do think that they'll probably separate the two. I think Astrobot will get Game of the Year, and uh, Final Fantasy will get Direction. Um, Best adaptation: Arcane, Fallout, the Knuckles event. I didn't know there was a Like a Dragon Yakuza
I just
series.
saw that on Prime Video just yesterday. I was just scrolling and saw it, and I wishlisted it right away.
Didn't even hear about it. Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft, which I think is like an animated series on Netflix.
Yeah.
I would bet my life Fallout wins this, but I could be wrong.
I
Arcane,
don't know.
maybe.
Yeah, Arcane, I keep hearing about. I have not watched it, and obviously I don't really know League of Legends, but people
The animation
love
is
that
pretty
show.
eye-catching. Like I've never seen it, but I've seen little like clips, and it's pretty eye-catching. The animation. I bet it would. And apparently, it's like taken right from some of their like what's that Critical Role? Is it Critical Role the D&D actors, like the voice actors that do
The podcast?
the podcast that's about D&D? Is that Critical
I think
Role? Is that
so.
what it's called? I think some of their like role playing ideas from that are right in this show. Right in this show. I don't know if that's true because isn't that about like League of Legends?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm misremembering that, but I thought it was like there was some connection to something.
Maybe the voice actors. I don't know. But
Maybe.
the one thing I'm not sure about is Arcane might have won this category previously. I think this is like the nomination for season 2, which just came out. So that
Hmm.
could go to Fallout because of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking Fallout. Best narrative: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantagio, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. Got to get one Microsoft nomination in here somewhere.
Hellblade 2 got like 3 or 4 nominations. They kind of came out of nowhere with that. That was a little surprising.
I think there's just enough Microsoft payola that they feel obliged to get
Possibly,
something.
but
I think either Final Fantasy VII will win this or Metaphor Refantagio.
Yeah. I would agree
I'm
with that.
guessing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
yeah, I would say Final Fantasy, unless that wins design, as you said, and then they want to spread it around.
Well, we haven't done design yet.
Game
Like
direction.
Direction. maybe.
Direction, sorry.
Best art direction: Astrobot, Black Myth, Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Air Tree, Metaphor Refantagio, and Neva. I would say Astrobot on this one.
It would be
I
cool
guess
for
Metaphor.
Neva to win. I don't know if it really has a shot, but yeah, I
People
don't
love
know.
Persona.
Yeah, the look of Metaphor was really, really cool, I thought. So
I don't know. I think it's not that impressive, especially in the game world. I like the grotesque designs of the humans, but I thought it was pretty underwhelming from an actual like modeling and environment standpoint. So I think Astrobot is just full of flourishes and like it's not just, you know, character models, it's animation. I think it's got some of the best animation. Touches.
We're all kidding ourselves, so it's going to be Erdtree,
I don't
obviously.
I'm pretty sure Astrobot or maybe even Black Myth will win this one. Best score and music: Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Refantagio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade has a lot of music. I know they released that huge Spotify playlist or music accompaniment with all the tracks, like hundreds of tracks. But it did have pretty good music. I think either Astrobot, but Astrobot uses a lot of music directly from the VR rescue missions kind of thing, like the same tracks.
But does anyone know that or care?
I don't know, but I'm thinking Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will win this award.
Really hard to vote against Final Fantasy in score, so I kind of feel that as well, but I would like to see Astrobot win.
Best audio design, Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2.
This is the one where I think Hellblade 2 kind of deserves it. So maybe Hellblade 2.
I don't know. They kind of established that spatial audio sound with voices in the first game. I feel like it's just kind of a repeat of that. I think, first of all, I think Helldivers 2 should win. I think the sounds in that game, including the score, like things impacting the ground, explosions, it's got such a wide array of sounds, and they're all...
Too bad it's not nominated.
I know, it should be nominated. So I think Silent Hill 2 will win this award.
Okay.
I thought they actually did a pretty good job, because I just played Silent Hill 1, and their version of like the static and sound and integrating orchestral music and combat situations, I thought it was doing it really well. So I think Silent Hill 2 will win.
I haven't played it, but I'm going to go Black Ops 6 off the board pick.
Yeah, I love the audio in that game. A lot of it is similar to previous Call of Duty games. Best performance, Brianna White, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Telle, A Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez, Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts, Silent Hill 2, and Melina Juergens, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. This is the one I will give a performance award to Microsoft for Hellblade 2. I feel like it's just kind of a reputation, and it drives the whole game type of performance.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played some of these games, but I would say that, or maybe Life is Strange, just based on, I feel like people like Life is Strange in particular for the performances and stuff.
I haven't heard much people talking about that, and they got to give Microsoft one award. They can't shut them out. So,
yeah,
they do a lot of marketing around her performance. So,
yeah, for sure.
I think she's definitely the favorite in this one.
Innovation and accessibility, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Prince of Persia the Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. I have no idea what the achievements are for accessibility in any of these games, but I'm going to say Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, just because that's the game that I feel like some of those features like jumped out at me as soon as I started up the game. But
I think Ubisoft has a huge, like, they're one of the biggest companies, and they can just pool accessibility resources across all of them, bring them into the engine. So I'm just going default Star Wars Outlaws.
For the same reason or similar reason, I'm going Diablo 4.
Okay.
They just got lots of cash.
Yeah. Also a good pick. All right, next up, Games for Impact, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Tales of Kenzara, Zao, and Closer the Distance. I don't know if it's supposed to be Close the Distance, but I haven't heard of that game.
I think it's Closer the Distance.
Yeah, no, they're right.
I don't like the title. But I mean, you need to beat a lot of these games, I think, to know what their impact is specifically. I don't know why Indica is necessarily nominated. I
don't know, but let me tell you, the Discord is on me for not getting past the well crank. So I'm going Indica on this one.
I would love to see Tales of Kenzara Zao win. I kind of feel like Life is Strange is always, in this zone. But as Frank said, he's right. I haven't heard a lot about this particular one. So maybe not.
Yeah, I'll go with Tales of Kenzara Zao. It's definitely my favorite out of all these ones on this list. So I'll just pick that one. Best ongoing game, Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. I don't know what to make of this.
I think this is where they give Helldivers 2 something. So even though it's the first year it's out, and some of these other ones are giants in the in that category, I feel like they're going to give it to Helldivers.
I think they're going to give it to Fortnite. I think Final Fantasy 14 won it last year, so I don't know. I feel like Fortnite just is everywhere, and
Yeah, I don't know if that includes like what does this encompass for Fortnite? Is it, the Fortnite engine and allowing people to mod their own
probably
and put
yes.
in like
I would think it would be everything.
if that's included, it's got to be Fortnite. The suite of stuff they supply to gamers is
Was this
those two new games just come out this year as well, like the Lego one and the Rock Band one?
yeah. I don't know if they count as part of that or not, but if they are, then it has to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with it. It's just I don't remember if it won before. Like Huck, you're saying Final Fantasy won last year.
I just guessed. I think I remember it, but I could be totally wrong.
The board was dumb enough not to nominate Helldivers 2 for Game of the Year. They are also dumb enough not to let it win for this. So I say Fortnite will win. All right. Best community support: Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, No Man's Sky. I don't even know what this means. I will say Fortnite.
I'm going No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I have no idea on this one.
The only thing I could think of for Helldivers 2 was the idea of like people who sit in and curate stuff ongoing, and they're constantly, tweaking the game. And I don't like, I'm sure all of these games have elements like that are constantly being tweaked. And unless that real time thing is truly unique to Helldivers 2, I could see that.
Maybe also just being able to see the like progression map of like how everyone's contributing to different areas too would count in that regard.
I would say Fortnite for this one as well. I assume that includes support for people learning how to use Fortnite engine and making their own games on Fortnite and having resources to do that.
Yeah, like I don't know, this category, I'm not sure if it's like outside the game, you know what I mean? Like if it's more like having a fan base or like a place for people to communicate with you. Like I don't really get it, but
neither do I. Best independent game: Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. I think we were pretty close to guessing most of these for indie game. I have to assume Balatro will win because it's nominated for Game of the Year. I wouldn't be surprised if Animal Well won, but I'm going to go with Balatro.
Yeah, I mean, Balatro seems like the obvious choice here, but it's a good list.
Best debut indie game: Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and The Plucky Squire finally getting a little love. And like, this is getting kind of boring. Like, I guess it's Balatro, but maybe
I know. Like,
it's so weird to me when, first of all, if a different game wins for best independent game and best debut in indie game, then you can write off these awards again, because how can it not be the same game if one wins the other one?
Yeah, it doesn't like I like the idea of like giving another chance to highlight some smaller developers, but it's just kind of repetitive.
I like the idea, but if the best indie game is a debut game, then the same game has to win both.
Yeah, I wish they had more of like a best new IP sort of category instead of just indie game, because like you guys are saying, best independent game and best debut could potentially be the same thing. And at least you'd give some other lesser known titles potentially a bump here, but from bigger studios. So oh well, I mean, I don't know. What's Manor Lords? Don't even know what that is.
It's like a construction management kind of simulator game, I think. Okay, best mobile game: AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. I don't know.
This category is the worst. Like I'm always like, okay, what are like? There's got to be a couple cool mobile games that came out this year that I didn't hear about, and then it's just like these giant like IP games. Like I don't know, but again, it's hard to think Balatro wouldn't win this, but maybe Zenless Zone Zero. Who knows?
Go with Pokemon, the obvious winner.
Yeah, the Nintendo, even though I don't think they make it necessarily, they kind of own the IP. And is Nintendo, have we even talked about Nintendo yet? We haven't got the best family game, but I might need to spread some love there too. Next, best VR AR game, Arizona Sunshine Remake. No, I guess 2 came out last year and Remake was this year. Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. I would probably bet my life Asgard's Wrath 2 wins.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. Batman Arkham Shadow, maybe. I played it a bit. We'll talk about it in what we played, but it's just weird that Asgard's Wrath 2 is in there because it came out last year, but just late, like after the deadline. So,
ooh, is this a birthday present to yourself?
possibly.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I didn't know about this. All right, now we get into some genre awards, which I'm sure we'll have some comments on the genres. Best action game, Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. This one's kind of tough.
Well, it has to be Wukong, right?
What I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, based on your kind of law of overlapping categories, like that's the only one that's nominated for Game of the Year. But
Yeah.
maybe it's
I
not
would-
the best action game of the year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it to Helldivers or maybe Space Marine 2, depending on how they see things. But obviously, both those games are not Game of the Year, but Wukong is. Obviously, it's better.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue there are adventure elements in Wukong, so I'm not sure why. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, from the multiplayer perspective, it's got limited adventure influence, but the campaign certainly does. Stellar Blade is kind of action adventure RPG. Warhammer 40K, same thing. So, I mean, the only pure action game here to me is Helldivers 2. And to a lesser degree, Black Myth Wukong, but I would give it to, I think Black Myth Wukong will win it.
Yeah, I think Black Myth Wukong probably will win. Worth pointing out, there is a separate multiplayer category as well. So
Yeah,
that makes it a little trickier.
but Helldivers 2 is only multiplayer and it's in this category. So
Right.
next, best action adventure game, Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Now, we were talking a bit before the show, which I'm sure we've talked about in the past. Like, what is an action adventure game versus an action game? And, to me, adventure is calling back to classic genres, and adventure is more about classic adventure games, which were about making decisions, solving puzzles, acting on behalf of a character, to the degree that the adventure influence on all modern games is the inclusion of story and protagonists and avatars, where old action games were just about, how fast you can hit buttons, your accuracy, reflexes, physical coordination challenges. So, I mean, adventure has had an influence on every modern game for the most part, if it has story elements to some degree. But Sean, I think you were kind of speculating, is there something puzzly about the game? Might be the best way to think about best action adventure.
Yeah, I think either that or like I'm just trying to look up what their description is on the site, but either puzzle elements or now kind of the distinction between like a more linear game versus an open world game. Maybe that would be part of it.
I guess, because now that I'm looking at it, Astrobot, that is a pure action game to me. There's barely any story, very light story, and not a lot of puzzles per se. It's basically physical coordination challenges, platforming for the entire game. So that's weird to me that it's in action adventure, not action.
And you don't ever really need to figure out where to go. I mean, they pretty lay it out for you pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I would swap Stellar. The other thing I think we mentioned last year, that the action game nominee is kind of basing it on the quality of the action itself, that's where I can see something like Stellar Blade getting nominated with kind of intense combat and some interesting, parry mechanics and a lot of variety, because it's open world as well. And for like large portions of the game. So who knows? I hate that these two categories exist and that there's not an adventure category and puzzle category as well.
So just on the website, it says action adventure is combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving, whereas the action is just combat.
No, there's traversal and puzzle solving in Stellar Blade. There's traversal.
Oh, I know. I'm just
Wukong.
Now here's the conspiracy theory. If you notice, of the Game of the Year game lists, Astrobot stands alone in this category. In the other category, Black Myth stands alone. I'm sure in the RPG category, Final Fantasy, I guess Metaphor would be there too.
And Elden Ring.
And Elden Ring? Okay. And then Balatro is in a few by its own. Now, does that then narrow down Game of the Year to be Elden Ring, Rebirth, or Metaphor? And these other categories are just nods to those other Game of the Year awards so that they win something.
Could be. Yeah, I could see that. And
that's why Stellar Blade and Astrobot are not in like different categories.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so gross even talking about the awards in this way. Like, how do they spread the love around? To me, that makes it not about voting and actually picking the best game and like representing the game industry, which I think is gross to say out loud. Like, just have people vote on what they think the best games are and do it accurately.
Just want to mention Prince of Persia in this category. So that was good to see.
Yep. Best RPG, Dragon's Dogma 2, getting some love. Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor Refantagio. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will win this.
I agree.
Possibly Elden Ring. It could be the opposite of what Hawk
definitely
said.
Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Hey, my thing could still stand.
Yeah.
Let's
it's
see.
just out one of those RPGs for Game of the Year.
Is Metaphor in any standalone categories? Art direction, maybe it wins that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's totally. I guarantee all of the Game of the Year awards nominees win a category. That's my guess.
Okay. Best fighting game. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, Multiversus, and Tekken 8. I would be absolutely shocked if Tekken 8 didn't win this.
This is like, so I was going to say with Astrobot, like, it's kind of weird that there's no platforming or platformer standalone category, but I get there's not that many platformers released from year to year. But I'm looking at this fighting category and I'm like, are there really 5 solid nominees here? It doesn't really feel like it. I mean, granted, I haven't played a lot of them, but when you've got the Marvel vs. Capcom collection in there, that's like, I think you're struggling to find something.
Yeah, I agree, Sean. I mean, technically fighting games are games, so
yeah.
Could hybrid or amalgamate those categories or incorporate them into each other. Next up, best family game: Astrobot, Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Party Jamboree, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. I
hope The Plucky Squire wins this, to be honest. I really do.
It's definitely a game for children, so I could see it winning. Astrobot, I think, will win, but if there was a better multiplayer family game, I might consider it. I think we've seen too many Mario parties for that to be the one. So I think Astrobot for sure here.
I would hope Astrobot wins. This might be the one where they're like, we got to throw Nintendo a bone. So we'll see.
Well, they got 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Best Sim strategy game: Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, Unicorn Overlord. I think Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess is going to win here. I think it stood out as an original game and got pretty good reviews. Perhaps Unicorn Overlord, but I think Kunitsugami was doing something kind of unique.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, I haven't played a bunch of these. The one that I saw some people saying that they're surprised wasn't in here was Satisfactory,
Yeah.
which I don't know if this would be the perfect category for it, but I think it would be the only one that it really fits in.
We were debating if like we had missed that for Game of the Year nominations because it's a pretty popular game and it came out early access. So
yeah.
And I guess worth noting that Hades 2 is not anywhere here either, which we assumed would be the case.
True, yeah. But yeah, I haven't played Satisfactory, but I'm kind of curious.
Best sports racing, F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K5, Topspin 2K25, WWE 2K24. I really don't know. I'm going to say F1 24.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I'm going WWE. But I did see some people talking about the fact that the was it the college football, the EA?
Yeah. How did that not get nominated here?
Yeah, like it seems weird that it's not in here.
F1 24 is EA. They will not give EA anything. So I will say
it's such a thing.
I'm going to say Topspin 2K25.
Yeah. I'm going off the board. College football 24 or 25, whatever it is. I can't believe that's not in here. That game made a huge splash considering it hadn't been out for, 15 years or something like that?
Yeah.
Like what a huge achievement.
The only sports game I kind of heard about, people being pretty excited about this year. But I saw some speculation, again, that maybe because a lot of international outlets voting, that could have influenced it. But
I don't buy that at all. I feel like these awards are super like focused and representative of generally the best games across the world. Like I don't see regional bias to any picks here at all, other than I guess I could see college football being so niche, but
I think that's the thing. Like it would only be popular in the US.
I was trying to look up the sales. Apparently College Football 25 has outsold Helldivers 2. That's an incredible achievement.
All about this college football game.
Well, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, this one says 2 million copies, but it's in July. That's pretty early in the lifespan of the game. Yeah, I think it would have come out around July.
All right, best multiplayer, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, Warhammer 40K, Space Marine 2. I think this is the one that Helldivers actually gets.
If Helldivers 2 doesn't win this, I'm done with the Game Awards.
Yes, Sean. That's 3 episodes of the year gone. Where we juice Game Awards content. Can't talk about the Game Awards anymore.
I'm with you guys. I'm going to take the solemn vow with you. Done with the Game Awards if Helldivers 2 doesn't win.
Most anticipated game, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, Ghosts of Yotai, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime Beyond, Monster Hunter Wilds.
I mean, it should be Grand Theft Auto. I'm kind of feeling like Monster Hunter Wilds, the marketing push on that one. It's just...
I know.
Or do you have the Kojima factor, and it's Death Stranding 2. Maybe. They are buds, Keighley and Hideo Kojima. So watch out for that one.
That's a good point, too. This is like the most payola-loaded category I can think of. I'm going to say...
Here's the category description, just to help you, Frank. Recognizing an announced game that has demonstrably illustrated potential to push the gaming medium forward.
Well, it's definitely not Metroid Prime 4 then. I wouldn't be surprised if Monster Hunter Wilds wins, but I'm going to say Grand Theft Auto 6. Just to reward that trailer because it was so talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're not going to do content and esports stuff. I don't know who any of them are. Okay.
No.
I know Queso. Kieran watches Queso.
So Queso's going to win. All right, those are the Game Awards. Anything we need to touch on that we didn't talk about?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
All right, we'll see. I don't know if we'll talk about the winners. So depending on who wins, I feel like I already breached my my commitment not to talk about them. I felt
We got to
forced
talk about
on
the
pretty much me.
trailers and the announcements that are going to happen on
That's
the show.
true.
Yeah, December 12th is the Game Awards. So we've got some time to recover.
All right. All right, let's get into what we played. Should we start with Rise of the Golden Idol? Did we all play that?
We did.
Yep.
We did indeed.
All right. So I'll just say I am playing on PlayStation 5, and I replayed all of Case of the Golden Idol and its DLC on PS5 before playing the new one. So I've been in Golden Idol mode, and I've beaten both. I've platinumed both. I've done everything in both. So
Wow.
you can't technically.
You did the DLC as well?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So you guys can give your thoughts first because you're just getting into it.
Okay, Huck, go for it.
Sorry, I was trying to, but I clicked off the window and hit the window. Sorry. So I'm playing on actually iPad and my phone. And I'm loving the interface, to be honest. It works perfectly on a touchscreen. I like the little improvements, like now when you enter, a scene and you click a exclamation point or a question mark, you don't have to manually click all of the words that are there that are highlighted. They just give you all the words, and it's up to you to just read the contents that's there. That's a nice little design choice that saves you some monotony. I like the improved art style. Feels like it's more dynamic. And just more eye-catching and more attractive, but still has that Case of the Golden Idol vibe. And the puzzles in general are just so great and so thoughtful. It's really, I would love to pick this guy's brain of how he actually goes about figuring out these puzzles to make it so that all the little clues are laid out in just the perfect way. And also how he weaves previous scenes or cases in with the other, like, future ones, and everything seems to tie back together nicely and tells like kind of a cohesive story across the chapters. So I should say I'm at the end of chapter 2 and I'm having trouble figuring that one out. So that it's tricky, but there's a lot of details that are really impressive. Where
is that the auction one?
The auction one.
That's the one I'm on too.
Where you have to like pay very close. Well, I guess I'm technically past the auction one. I'm in the like describe the whole case in general, what happened.
Oh, okay.
So I figured out the auction one, but that one was tricky. There, you got to pay attention to like very specific things. It even has like
I had to whip out a notepad and start writing some stuff
yeah.
down.
I had to whip out the calculator and like calculate everyone's cash to see who might have had it and everything. Frank's like, I got that shit in my head. You guys amateurs. But even like paying attention to like tiny details, tiny spoiler coming up right here, like whose keys are, in which person's hand at the end kind of thing. And just like tiny details, even in like, there's another one that's in a jail where there's like tiny details you got to pay attention to. I think it's just so clever how, the art style seems, I don't know, it kind of basic, but also there's so much detail jam packed in there, and you really can pay attention. It's like a perfect environmental storytelling game where if you pay attention to the details tell you things about what happened. And I always love it when you get to the point where you're like close to figuring it out, or you think but you're wrong. And then
there's always a twist.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, was it actually this guy? And then you like kind of try some other stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you only got 2 wrong now. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm not that far off. That's cool. And I just find like all of a sudden you see it from a different perspective, and it makes just as much sense with all the stuff you've seen beforehand. I think also the length of all the puzzles is always like a perfect length. There's not too many details. There's not too many screens. You don't get overwhelmed and forget what's going on. I'm just like really, really impressed that this guy has been able to put out 2 of this game at such a high standard. I'm assuming since Frank platinumed them, that chapter 3, 4, and 5, still maintain, a great pace and great design. So I'm loving it so far. Definitely in the running for game of the year, for sure.
Just to speak to that last part about continuity, I actually, after playing the first one again, I'd never done the last DLC. And the last DLC was by far the hardest one I've ever done. Like, I actually had to look up a guide for some stuff in that. Like, yeah, it just was so far out there, and some of the wording I thought was awkward and not that well done, to be honest. I thought it was too complex. So then returning to this one, I was really worried because one of the first puzzles, I think in chapter 1, I was like really stumped on for a long time. The one at the foundation with the rake and the sand.
Oh yeah,
me too.
And I think that's the beginning of chapter 2.
Is it okay?
Maybe not. Oh no. You're right. Yeah.
The layout to that puzzle, I thought was pretty bad. Something happens and like it's on the edge of the screen, and I didn't even notice it. And the leaps I had to make with some of the stuff there. Oh, actually, I don't want to spoil it. How the person died made like that was a huge leap for me, based on something else that's in the room. Like I cannot. And then once you actually figure it out, I'm like, okay, I guess I see it. But I was like, oh, this might be rough. But that was the only one like that for me. Going through the entire game, I actually thought it was better than the first and more digestible into more digestible chunks and panels for the most part. The last non-DLC puzzle for the first game is so sprawling. Like it's hard. And I feel like their feedback.
Is that the one that's like in the tower?
No, I think that was DLC. It's the one where you have to go to the over map and decide where all the people.
Oh yeah.
And you have to go through all the previous cases, kind of thing, right?
Right.
And I feel like their feedback was that's a lot to digest in one puzzle. So they tried to break it down a bit more. And for the most part, I think that's completely successful. The only criticism I have is in the last panel, I was stuck forever. And I think there's genuinely like incorrect grammar, a grammatical mistake that like threw me off completely. I'm like, it can't be this word because of the grammar. And it was just blatantly wrong. I actually noticed a few spelling and grammar errors in some of the panels, but
I must say the grammar actually helps with determining some of the stuff too, which is so important, I find.
It usually does, unless it's like, let me know when you get there. It's actually wrong. Like it doesn't make sense. So what I kind of was right. My instincts were correct, but I excluded a possibility because of the grammar, and it like drove me crazy. So that's my only real complaint. My other, I guess I'm probably the only one that feels this way. I prefer the old art style. I think it was closer to, a classic LucasArts adventure puzzle game and kind of like dirty and gross.
It definitely was like a little grosser is a good way to put it.
Which I like. This is a little too clean and less appealing to me. Obviously, that's a personal preference, but I prefer the last game's art.
Yeah, I think I'm actually with you on that, but not that I dislike the new game's art. It's just I thought it was going to be more. I don't know why. Like I got the sense that there was going to be more actual 3D stuff, but it's just 2D with a 3D perspective. So I mean, I don't know. It's just a little more eye-catching, a little more like you get a bit more close up on people's faces and some
more animation too in general. I think.
Yeah.
On the character specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I think in the first game, there's only like 1 or 2 elements that are usually animated. And this one, it seems like there's quite a few more things that animate.
Yeah, I even like the animation more in the first one. Like I can think of like people's hair sometimes moving and the explosion, and it was a little more like lo-fi. And I just in general, I think the puzzle design, aside from the one I talked about, is better in the second one. Art style was better in the first. So together, I think they're pretty comparable games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a huge difference. This is almost maybe one of those examples of games that it was kind of built on the same engine. Could have been DLC, but slightly different art style. They refined a few things with the interface, but otherwise, it's pretty similar to the first game. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. I guess like I found the same thing that Huck mentioned with regards to the wording, where it's like sometimes I'm like, is this how I should be figuring things out? Like, because it says "an," I know, okay, it can only be a word that starts with a vowel. Like, I feel like I'm cheating somehow by doing that, but maybe that's just part of the intention of how you solve these
I like
things.
that it's easier that way.
Yeah, like sometimes you don't really get from the picture of the clues exactly what happened, but then you start going through the fill in the blanks, and you just start putting in words that seem to fit, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that could have happened. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I don't know. It's still fun.
I like how I was just gonna say on that same note, I like how they've broken out. I think they did in the first game, but I think in this one they did it more. But they break it out into smaller chunks, so they have sort of like the description of the whole thing that happened, and then it'll be like who the people are. Now I know in the first game they usually had like 3 panels of things to solve. This one you could have, I think the most I saw was like 5 or 6. Like, so
Yeah,
you
there's
have
some
like
where it's just one.
yeah, some just one, some
Like,
5 or 6.
You'll get to one that's really unique in a couple chapters that stood out and was like interesting. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of different. So in terms of variety, I'm really impressed with the puzzle variety. And I mean, the big difference from the first game is the epilogue to the first game made you look back at everything you've done and make like some summary observations, where this one has that idea in each chapter. So you solve 3 or 4 cases per chapter, and then there's an overarching story per chapter that needs to be solved. So it's definitely a longer game. Like this one took me a lot longer to play through, and I was worried I was gonna do my classic thing where I got burnt out on Case of the Golden Idol. But once I got to chapter 2, I was completely hooked, and I just stuck with it like almost every hour of the day until I'd solved it all.
Yeah, I mean, it does have that addictive element to it. But yeah, I was playing on
mobile.
I was playing on mobile as well, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I was kind of like, oh, I'll try it and see, because I guess we should mention, if you have Netflix, it's on it's like a Netflix release for iOS and Android.
As is Case, right? You can play the old one as well,
right, with all the DLC. But it works quite well with the touch interface. The one thing at one point I was like, you know what? I kind of want to just kick back on the couch and use a controller. And I tried pairing a controller and it doesn't work. So I don't know if that's something they're going to add, but currently the mobile version doesn't allow that.
I did have some bugs on PS5. There was one like persistent bug where it's broken, where when you go back through previous chapters by pushing in R3, like you literally can't cycle through stuff. It just disappears. So it made it, I had to like do a back out to the main menu every time through the pause menu. And that was a little frustrating. I'm sure that'll get fixed soon.
Yeah. Backing out on mobile is not obvious exactly. You kind of have to hit like kind of like a pause button kind of thing in the top right corner, and then you have to choose like return to the previous section. So it's not totally obvious how you kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, and I actually, like, it hasn't happened to me, but there's like 2 buttons on that screen. One is return to the previous scenario or scenario selection or whatever they call it, and the other one is reset this entire puzzle.
Dangerous. They better have a are you sure? Yes, no. I haven't hit it yet either.
Yeah,
okay.
Weird.
All right. So yeah, if you like the first one, you're definitely going to like Rise. And if you haven't played either of them, especially if you have Netflix, download it now and get ready to take a 2-hour dump.
Just 2 hours? I think I've put in way more than 2 hours already.
Yeah, I know. At some point your ass will go numb and you have to.
You'll be forced to stand up.
All right, Sean, tell us about Arkham. What's it called?
Shadow. Arkham
and I'm
Shadow.
assuming you bought a MetaQuest 3?
I got a MetaQuest 3. Finally caved on that. And I was really like torn. I was like, do I go 3S? But I was like, no, because I guess if you don't know the difference, the 3S, which just recently came out, has the processing power of the Quest 3 but the lens is of the Quest 2, so the resolution isn't as good. And I was like, no, I kind of want the full thing, even though honestly, I was like, you know what, the PSVR 2 and having the ability to play that on PC now with the adapter, I was like, I don't know if I really need a Quest. But of course, Arkham Shadow is exclusive to Quest. And it seems like a lot of their exclusive games don't come to other platforms, in the immediate future anyway, because
I would say ever for the most part.
yeah, like Assassin's Creed Nexus is still exclusive to Quest.
Asgard's Wrath, both of them.
Yep. I think there's a couple others, but yeah. So I, obviously love the Arkham series, and hearing that there's a new VR one, I was like, okay, I gotta play this, and it is cool. So like there was a previous Arkham VR game which I had played on the PSVR 1 when that originally came out, and it was fun. It was more leaned into the detective stuff for sure, and I feel like there wasn't really any combat, like maybe throwing some batarangs or something. I don't remember, but it was more of like a narrative focused thing. So this does bring combat into it, and it's got, free movement, and you're kind of moving around the levels and stuff. And it's interesting how they bring the kind of Arkham combat into VR. Like you're basically throwing punches, and as people come at you, you punch, and then it'll like kind of zoom you towards that enemy, kind of like how it does in the other games. And then it'll give you prompts of like, you got to punch in sort of the right direction or do an uppercut. And if you don't, then you kind of get pushed back and your chain combo ends. And then if somebody comes at you from off screen, you can kind of punch sideways to like hit them. And then the one thing that doesn't really work is the counter. Like they still have like a little indicator when they're about to hit you. And I think it says you're supposed to like reach forward to grab them or something, but I just always punch them and it kind of just works. I don't know. I feel like the counter, I don't know if I'm missing something there, but for the most part, it works. It feels a little random, like you're just kind of getting symbols and having to match what they're telling you to, but the flow of it does kind of feel like Arkham combat, which is kind of cool. But it's definitely very linear. As far as I can tell so far, there's no open world to it. I mean, I've only played probably an hour or two. But, visually it looks pretty good, like better than I expected. And, there are some collectibles and things, like I guess the equivalent of Riddler trophies, but not very challenging so far. I don't know if it's going to get trickier down the road, but I don't know. I'm liking it so far. It's not completely blowing me away or anything, but I'm enjoying it. I'll definitely keep playing it.
I was going to say, I don't know how Batman games and LA Noire, if they ever do another one, do not just steal the idea of the golden idol and incorporate it into their games. I thought you were going to say they actually used the case of the golden idol detective work as a blueprint for their puzzles, that you find the clues in a VR scene and then have to figure them out.
That would be good. I mean, that's the one thing that I am actually disappointed with, is they do have some detective elements in this again, but it's like way dumbed down from even the previous VR game, where it's just you turn on detective mode, there's something literally right in front of you, you scan it and then move on. Like there's barely any solving at all. So
now, I did forget to say, and I haven't played, the Sherlock Holmes games and some other detective stuff, but when we did our best detective games, the old Golden Idol series is so good at making you feel like a detective. Like you are figuring things out and like coming to conclusions, and those aha moments that Huck alluded to, where you think you have it figured out, but the twist, there's some hidden information that makes you reframe what happened there. Like nothing comes close. And I don't know why more games aren't kind of ripping off the Golden Idol for their puzzles and story elements.
Yeah, maybe Oberdin would be. I haven't played it yet, but that's the one I hear.
You haven't played Oberdin?
No, it's on my list. I still got to get to it.
Where Oberdin, like I liked it. I didn't beat it or anything. It kind of, everything builds on something previous. So as soon as you kind of get lost, it feels like a large hump to get over to get reinvested and going back through everything. I know like it kind of separates pages and chapters from what I remember, but Golden Idol has this reset element and like pages and panels within one case that make it so digestible that it just exceeds Oberdin for me, but I need to go back and try Oberdin again.
The nice thing about Oberdin was like you're trying to find all the information about the crew, but they tell you if you're right 3 guys at a time. So they are digestible little like chunks, and there are like easier. So, there's some very easy ones at the beginning. Then the middle is kind of tricky. And then the last couple are easy because there's only so many possibilities left. So, yeah, it's, I think you have to choose the guy, how they died, and where they died, something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, and there's just like a lot of subtle environmental storytelling in that game as well. That is similar, very similar to Golden Idol, except slightly different, things you're trying to solve for. But I think they both accomplish it in the same way.
Yeah, I might have to finally play Oberdin.
Did you not? You played it though, right?
Yeah, I played it. I thought it was awesome. I just, for whatever reason, got out at some point. So
there's there's one thing in Oberdin that unlocks like a ton of info once you figure it out. So once you make that kind of like eureka moment, then the game kind of like quickly falls into place after that. But yeah, that's the only like kind of downside is that yeah, you have this sort of like one thing that unlocks everything once you get that.
I think I might have just spoiled it when I was looking up Oberdin.
Oh
no. Okay. Anyone else have anything they've been playing?
Yeah, I do. I've been playing Mario and Luigi Brothership, which
that's too, right?
Kind of like stealth launched. Like I don't see anyone kind of talking about this game. I don't totally know why it hasn't been getting that great reviews, and I'm loving it. I guess it's maybe because I haven't played a Mario ampersand Luigi game in a long time, but or maybe even ever. But I had no preconceived notion of what this game was going to be going in, and it's basically like a Mario RPG game with kind of a new, with Mario and Luigi, and I really enjoy the combat of it. So it's typical sort of like turn-based battles, but then for attacking and defending, there is sort of like a time-based, not a rhythm. What do you call it? Like a
timing window.
Yeah, like a timing window game where based on the enemy's movements, you have to kind of like press a dodge button or a hit button at the proper time, and it'll give you a boost or like a counter attack almost thing. And yeah, I think it's just really well done. The enemies have different varieties in their attack patterns. So every enemy you come across, there's like a different puzzle to solve in the combat, which I really like because it keeps you engaged throughout all the combat. Whereas with, typical menu-based RPGs, I find I just mindlessly button mash attack the whole time, which is fine if I'm looking to just like grind levels or whatever, but it does get boring. So I really like the combat. I find the puzzles are good so far. There's nothing too challenging. But yeah, I hadn't played one of these games in a while, so I don't know if people are not liking it because it's too similar to previous games in the series, or there's not enough variety or something. But so far, I would say a couple hours in, and I'm still enjoying it. It's got sort of like a neat sort of like real-time aspect to it. You're sailing around this ocean, and you have to find islands and other things around as you take the currents of the ocean, quote unquote. And so while your ship is moving along these currents, you can, go and explore areas and return to previous areas you've been and use your new items to get to new areas you've never gone to. I don't know if it's really that expansive, but it's, I don't know, it's keeping me engaged. I'm enjoying it. I'm not really paying attention to what the story has to say in typical sort of like Nintendo fashion, but I'm enjoying the gameplay. I find it really enjoyable. I don't know. What do you think, Sean?
I kind of like the art style. The art style's good. I'm looking at screenshots right now, and It's impressive.
Yeah, it's good. I really like it. I'm surprised it's not getting. It seems to have completely flown under the radar, and I don't really know why.
I think just in my brief like Metacritic looking here, it sounds like the more you play it, the more annoying it gets.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it does get repetitive, which is like, so I'm with you, Huck. I've played like, 4 or 5 hours, I think, and I'm enjoying it a fair bit. But, and I've played some of the previous installments. I don't think I've ever finished one of these, mostly because they're pretty long. And yeah, just
I think
after a
How
while,
Long to Beat said this one was like 38 hours, which seemed crazy to me.
yeah.
So
I don't know if I don't know if I'll actually put all that time in, but they are kind of very easy to jump into RPGs. Like this was the first series that I played that had that kind of timing based thing to keep you engaged in the battles. So I like that. I do agree. Like, I mean, you mentioned you're not really paying attention to the story. I've seen a lot of criticism of the story and the writing, and I think it is not great. Like some of the previous installments were really actually pretty clever in terms of the dialogue and stuff, and even the premise of some of them, like Bowser's Inside Story, you're going inside Bowser's stomach or something like that, and like one of them, Dream Team, you're like in dreams. So like, there's cool ideas in some of the previous ones. This one just kind of seems like, I don't know, nonsense.
yeah, you're trying to put an island back together or something.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell you what the story is, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I like the battle so far. I just, played a few hours and it feels like the mechanics haven't changed that much. So I could see how maybe, it gets repetitive after a while.
Yeah, I mean,
feeling that burn with Thousand Year Door, doing just how long it takes sometimes. The pace is so slow.
Thousand Year Door has way more dialogue than this game.
No, but even in a combat situation, waiting for certain things and inputting a charge on like the hammer, I got really sick of doing that. So, but I had the same problem with Sea of Stars as well, like using the deflect and having to hit the button 10 times. The 100th time you use some power is annoying. I can't believe no one's figured that out yet, like how to improve that. Sorry, Huck, I interrupted you.
No, I think we both interrupted Sean.
I mean, that's it. I'm done. On Mario and Luigi anyway.
Okay. All I've really played other than that is Black Ops 6. Really enjoying the multiplayer in that game. I've already prestiged and I've been playing every day. Although this was like pre-season, so they just did the first season in Battle Pass, and I'm already starting to like it less. I have a feeling maybe more annoying players are entering it now that the season started. And secondarily, IGN had an op-ed. Well, not really. It was just pulling stuff from Reddit. But I agree with the Reddit communities or people in the Reddit community with this. Now, once the battle pass is out and it's all these like skins and cosmetics and like completely goofy weapons, it feels like just such a random mess. And people are saying, I just want to I'll pay $20 to turn off any of this stuff. So it just looks like, classic military combat. And I feel the same way. It was so much fun when it was just kind of a normal military shooter. And now it feels like so goofy and kind of obnoxious. I still love the gameplay, but I also am missing the preseason for multiplayer. And now it's like just these ridiculous skins and tracers and explosions. People die. I'm like,
I'm sure it's only going to get worse.
This is why I was liking it so much before. This stuff was turned off for now. And now it's all back, and we'll see if it affects whether I keep playing.
What about zombies? Did you play that yet?
Not yet. I wanted you to play, but you ignored us on Saturday night.
I had to play Batman Arkham VR. What can I say?
That's what your family gaming was?
Well, we were playing Walkabout Mini Golf initially, which is actually really fun. 4 players. That's pretty amazing. Okay. But yeah, then I was like, do I play Helldivers with these guys or do I play Arkham? I'll play Arkham.
We got ditched. Okay. I see how it is.
Yeah, so I got a few other VR things, but I'm going to save those. I'll mention real quick. I don't know if you tried this game or not, Frank, but Karate Survivor.
No, I bought it, but I haven't played it yet.
So it seems to me like it might be the next big Survivor like. I'm really enjoying it. Like, these games I kind of like to throw them on for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I kind of I'm done. But like this one kind of makes me want to keep playing. I think because it feels like you're unlocking more stuff. Like you unlock moves and weapons and things as you go, that really substantially change the gameplay. But basically, it's like Vampire Survivors, but reskinned with like you're in a Jackie Chan movie or something. And so like you're going around levels where you're trying to avoid just thugs that are trying to beat you up, but you have these attacks. There's like a sort of cycle that you do of like attacks. And as you keep going, you can add more attacks to your cycle. So you can do like one punch, and then eventually you can start doing like a punch kick, like building on that. And I don't know. It's just a cool re-skinning of Vampire Survivors. So if you're into those games, check it out.
Nice. Huck, anything else for you?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, that's it for me. Sean, any last words?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's going to do it for this week. No show last week, so a bit longer this week. And of course, some juicy Game Awards discussion. So,
oh, yeah.
You can watch us at youtube.com/Game Junk. Discord links are there as well. Leave us some comments. Let me know what a hypocrite I am because I talked about the Game Awards when I said I'd be done with them forever. Let us know what you think is going to win Game of the Year or any of the other awards. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye.